we just lost.
What?
God! Son of a bitch! When I was a little kid, I grew up on Sega Genesis. Some of my favorite games to play on that console, though, were the Streets of Rage series. I used to play all three of these games day in and out during my childhood, and is without a doubt my favorite beat-em-up franchise of all time. Streets of Rage 2 is especially one of my favorite games from that decade. So, when I got the news that it was being revived with a fourth game, I freaked out. In a good way, obviously. And I didn't even know about the release date until about 6 days prior. Is it a fantastic return and a faithful revival? Absolutely. Is it the best in the series? In my opinion, no. The game takes place 10 years after the events of Streets of Rage 3. Mr. X is no more, but now we have to deal with his children, Mr. and Miss Y, apparently. So does that mean there's going to be a Z in the 5th game? Now these cutscenes are just not that good, by today's standards anyway. The subtitles fly by a little too fast that it doesn't really give you a chance to both read and watch each frame. Overall, I feel like the lack of any voice dubbing during the cutscenes was a big wasted opportunity to make it feel more than just awkward silence most of the time. But enough about the story and crappy cutscenes, because who cares about any of that in a beat-em-up? How is the game itself? Well, it's still good old-fashioned, old-school, side-scrolling badass, that's what. Complete with knives and stabbing weapons! The playable fighters all have their own strengths, weaknesses, and unique special abilities. There are the longtime favorites like Axel and Blaze, who are basically the two main stars of the series. The only two who are in all 4 games, I mean. There's also the unlockable Adam Hunter, who was previously only playable in the first game, but of course, there are 2 completely new characters thrown into the fight. Cherry Hunter is Adam's daughter, now all grown up, and she's more of a lightweight character who doesn't really throw, but instead can smash people's faces in with her punk rock guitar and jump on their shoulders and just pound their faces in. And then the second new character is Floyd, the apprentice of Dr. Zan from Streets of Rage 3. This man is probably my least favorite fighter just because he's super slow, but like, you can clearly see he has these 2 giant robotic arms that can pick up literally 2 people of any size at the same time and just throw them around like ragdolls. What a fucking beast! Now, some of the gameplay changes in this game I don't prefer over its predecessors. Some enemies, particularly the bosses, have way too many invincibility frames when they're charging up an attack or performing a special that can't really be avoided or cancelled out in any way. And last time I checked, I don't really have invincibility frames whenever I'm doing something fancy, so It's not exactly fair. And like, I get it, okay? This game is designed to be relentlessly, unapologetically tough on any difficulty above easy. The enemy AI is still as cheap and spam happy as they always have been, juggling and stun locking your ass until it becomes rage inducing. Sometimes, though, you can exploit the AI into falling out of the stage, which is always both funny and satisfying. I feel like this game should have kept the sprint mechanic that was in 3. Of all the things that game did wrong, I at least loved being able to charge and close in on my enemy, and I definitely missed that when playing this game. Also, why the hell is the item pickup button the same as the throw a weapon button? I can't tell you how many times I threw a fucking pipe at a wall to pick up an apple or a turkey. Whenever you run out of lives in this one, instead of being able to power through it with continues, you have to start the whole stage over from the beginning. But it also does give you optional assists too. I just ended up saying fuck it and shamelessly restarted the whole thing on easy, and I've been having more fun ever since. It's like they replaced continues with mission select, and now you have to conserve your lives through each stage. It's a change that I eventually embraced and gotten used to, but man, when I first found out, I was bullshit. There is, of course, both local and online supported co-op, which is always fun, or at least it can be when the other person doesn't quit, or has a bad connection, or just stands there AFK. You know, I would have liked to see them try to do a drop in and out co-op mode instead of having to join or create a lobby to start a selected stage. I mean, if Final Fight Double Impact did it 10 years ago, why can't this? I also would have preferred to be able to play a 4-player online co-op like how you can with a local game. And yet, I find myself forgiving most of these complaints due to how much retro throwback replayability there is here. As you play with each of the 5 normal fighters, you'll gradually unlock every old school 16-bit version of each fighter in all the previous Genesis games, starting from 1 and then 2 and then 3. Not only are these old versions fully playable and fight exactly how they used to, but they still hold up today, and it fits the combat of the new one. And I think I actually enjoy playing as the older sprite versions more, but maybe that's just nostalgia talking. Hell, you can even turn on the retro soundtrack in the options and listen to some classic sweet Streets of Rage 2 tunes in the background. I mean, for God's sakes, even the main menu music changes back when it's turned on. Not that I have anything against the new soundtrack. As a matter of fact, I fucking love this new music. It might just be my favorite in the series. I also love how it changes and intensifies when you face stronger opponents. It's awesome, and probably the game's most attractive feature. Along with all the unlockable retro fighters and the retro music, there's also a pretty extensive art gallery showcasing comparisons between the old school players and enemies, um, as well as early renders of all the new ones introduced. And for some reason, a lot of people apparently hate this new cel-shaded visual. Um, I'm not one of them. I love the new look. I mean, what were you expecting, honestly? 16-bit still? Or realistic graphics that will look like garbage 10 years from now? No. These graphics and art style will age wonderfully. I don't think I'll want future games to look any other way. But even looking past all of the story mode and the characters and the co-op, there is just so much more to do that admittingly I haven't even touched yet, like the hardcore arcade mode, or the battle, which I'm guessing is like a versus mode. Um, I was afraid that the $20 asking price for this game would be too steep, but believe me, it's not, and I'm so happy that it is worth it because each playthrough takes about 2 hours long, at least, so multiply that by the 5 main characters to try and you'll have already played for at least 10 hours. My final score for Streets of Rage 4 will be a very solid 8 out of 10. It was actually going to be more like a 6 or maybe 7 with all of these things I considered flaws that kind of set the game back. Like the ending, or lack thereof, it just immediately fades to the credits, with some background images of events showing you what happens. You know, similar to like the first two games, I guess. But once I started seeing just how much replay value was here, it bumps that score back up. Um, Anyone who was a fan of the original games back in the day, or those who simply like this genre, will find more than enough to feel satisfied. It's far from perfect, but I'm at least proud enough to say that for the first time in my lifetime, that Streets of Rage is back, baby.
The gamer gods.